a lot of people assume incorrectly and feel like there's two main categories of the modern man. All right. So people have most likely heard about alphas and betas, or chads and simps. Right? And the assumption is that you've got like a bunch of simps that are like the beta losers who just get used by women for their wallet, you know, subscribing to their OnlyFans, all this type of thing. And then, so you've got this category of men, like the bottom 80% or whatever that people like to say, and then they say your top 20%, which are like the chads that are pulling all the women, sleeping around and whatnot. Right? When in reality, like, you can't see that this, right? Everyone's blind at the fact of this matter, unless they're actually a real alpha male, a real staunch man, alright? An actual masculine man. Because otherwise you just simply can't see it. You assume that this dichotomy is true, that there is, you know, the simps and the chads. When in reality, the chads that are sleeping with multiple women and like getting a girlfriend here and getting a girlfriend there, and alright, they're actually simp whores, or you know, whore simps themselves. So you got the beta simps, alright, who are the loser cunts who can't get with the women, and then you've got the whore simps that are still simps, just like the betas, but they're the chads who sleep with a bunch of women. They're on the dating apps. They're successful with women. They're the you know, popular fucking role models and stuff. Think of people like what's that fuckwit's name? Andrew Tate. Yeah, right. So like a Chad can't like Andrew Tate pulls lots of women, can sleep with whatever women he wants, right? And there's like, that's just one example, obviously, an extreme example. But any man, even like you're just your successful, thinking he's a Chad fucking like dating coach, you know, relationship advice coach type of guy, and he's going out and he's like this is how you use dating apps to pick up women, and use this language and treat them like this and that and blah blah. And these cunts think they're chads because they pull lots of women and they sleep with lots of women. But they're actually on the same category as the simps, who are like just subscribe to OnlyFans and shit, and then actually never getting women. Right? So all these big players, these parent chads, big players, right, they have women drooling all over them, and they can just pull any woman they want any day, and they're sleeping with a bunch of different women. They're not chads. Right? They're not masculine men. They're actually beta losers as well. They're also simps. They're just the simps that are sleeping with the women. Right? But they're just as much of a simp as the simps who aren't sleeping with the women. Again, people can't see this. They think there is a dichotomy and there's a distinction between these two types of beta simps. Unless they're an actual alpha masculine male who is not a part of either of those two categories, who actually is distinct from all of those simps. Alright? So you got the simps, the beta simps. We could say, we can classify them like this, I guess. You got beta simps, who are the ones that subscribe to OnlyFans, that are sending money to the random women, but they never actually get anything in return. They never get a date. Nothing like this, right? Or they get a date and they get rejected straight away, and they're just paying for women's dinners and stuff. right? You got those beta simps, and then you've got what we could class. Let's just tickle their ego a little bit. Let's call them alpha simps. All right, you've got the alpha simps, which are the men on the dating apps, the men picking up the women, the men that the women are giving all their attention to. All right. Now, these men getting all the attention from the women, that's not them being successful with women. That's them being alpha simps. All right, maybe a bit better than a beta simp because they're actually getting some action. But the only reason they're getting some action is because they're a simp and they're being taken advantage of by the women. So they're actually just as much of a simp as the beta simp who's paying for her OnlyFans, even though he thinks he's cool Chad player because he's actually going and sleeping with her. He's not just sending her money and then getting blocked or whatever or rejected. He thinks he's a Chad. He thinks he's cooler than this other beta simp who's subscribed to her OnlyFans and sends her money, because he doesn't have to send her money. He can just hit her up, meet up with her, and then have sex. So he thinks that he's like more successful than the beta simp who's just subscribed to her OnlyFans and pays, sends her money and shit for nothing. He thinks that he's like more alpha, he's like more Chad, more masculine than the beta simp because he actually sleeps with her. Not realizing that he's just as much of a simp, or even more of a simp than the beta simp, because he is just her sex slave. He's just a fucking sex slave, that's all he is. He's a piece of meat that she can use for her own sexual pleasure. Alright? So every Chad, every guy that thinks he's alpha and he can pick up all these women and he dates any woman he wants and he hooks up with all these women, he's real successful on fucking dating apps and all of this and that, and he thinks he's like some masculine, successful man, when really he's just a hoe simp, a whore simp, and he's on the same level as a beta simp who gets laughed at and rejected by women and used just for their attention and money. Except the difference is, the beta simp is used for money, the alpha simp, right, the guys that are dating and sleeping with these women, they're the simps that are being used for sex instead of money. But they're actually just simps being used by women. Right? And if you're an actual masculine man, right, okay, so you're not a beta simp, you don't send them money, you don't fucking like subscribe to their OnlyFans and like you get no attention in return. She doesn't even like say hello, and you just like sending her fucking money for no reason, hoping maybe one day she might say hello to you. If you just like send her fucking $100 every week, cunt. Like, so a masculine man obviously isn't a beta simp. He's never going to just send money to a random woman hoping to get attention from her. And also, a masculine man is not an alpha simp or a sex slave simp who will use dating apps and hook up with and go out with and sleep with a bunch of women and be used as a piece of meat, as sex slave, loser simp. Alright? An actual masculine man won't be used by women and sleep around with them like that. An actual masculine man is too masculine, right? Too dominant to be manipulated like that by women. So you got the masculine men on top who aren't manipulated, right? We're not simping, white knighting for the women. We're not giving them free shit, hoping we get their attention like a beta simp. We're also not dating the women or sleeping with a bunch of random women, even though we could, if we wanted to pull random women, we could sleep with random women quite easily. But we don't, because we're not alpha simps being used by the women for sex. Right? We're actually above women. as true masculine men. Alright? So that's the difference. The irony, you know, that these men think that because they're not the beta simp paying her bills, that they're the one that she's sleeping with, that makes them somehow above the beta simp. The irony that they're on the same level. They're simps themselves. And it's just the beta simp's used for his wallet, and the alpha simp is used for his dick. So, ironically, who's actually more of a fucking loser simp? The alpha simp. He's just used for his dick, for sex. So he's more feminized. He's more emasculated. Whereas the beta simp, who doesn't even get to date the woman or have sex with her, he's actually more masculine because he's being used for his resources, for money. So he's actually a man of status. He's being used for his status, for being a higher status man, more money. So he can send her and, subscribe to her OnlyFans and send her money. So he's actually a higher status simp, more masculine male than the men who are sleeping with the women, who are actually the lowest, most effeminate men. The irony, it's so ironic. These guys are seen as like the cool boy, the bad boy, cool chads, like fucking sexy, pretty boy, fucking sleeping with all the girls, and like, oh, ain't he fucking sexy and cute? And ironically, he's the most effeminate, most feminine, emasculated loser male out of any male. At least the beta simp who's not having sex with, he's just being used for his resources. The so-called Chad, alpha simp, he's literally being used as a woman, just for his body, just for sex. He's being used for his penis. Not even for his wallet, like the beta simp. The alpha simp, who's dating and sleeping with the women, the top 20, so-called 20% of men, these so-called Chads, sleeping around, they're actually more feminine, more loser than the beta simps who can't get attention from women, because they actually do get used for their wallet, for their masculine resources, their status as a man. Whereas the so-called Chad, the alpha simp who's sleeping with the women, he's not being used for his status as a man. He's being used for his penis, for his body. He's being reduced to nothing but an object of sex, for sexual pleasure. So he's treated by women as like the lowest quality, like he's basically treated as a prostitute woman, a whore, a prostitute, trash, the lowest quality of trash of a woman. That's how he's treated even by the women who are sleeping with him. So a real alpha male, a real Chad, isn't sleeping around with a bunch of women. He's not dating. He doesn't use dating apps. He's just a man chilling, not being taken advantage of by women for his money, his resources, his wallet. And neither is he being taken advantage of by women for sex. An actual alpha Chad, a real masculine man, isn't taken advantage of or used by women at all. Alright, so that's how you can tell the difference. And that's how you can tell, you can see, you can actually understand, well, hey, actually, these dudes that apparently the Chads that are sleeping with women are actually technically in the same category of the beta simp losers who are virgins and will never sleep with a woman. They're actually in the same category of men, just loser, beta, emasculated, feminized men who are taken advantage of and used by women. So, and that's the most ironic part is, when you actually break it down, the men who are sleeping with the women are more loser, beta, than the men who are virgins and will never sleep with a woman. The men who are virgins and will never sleep with a woman, right? They'll never be able to pull a woman. They'll be virgins until death, right? These men. I feel sorry for them. I have pity in my heart for them, compassion for them, but they're actually more masculine. They're higher quality, more masculine men than these players, these pretty boy player chads that are going around sleeping with whoever they want. And just sleeping with any random women and going on dates and picking up new women every couple of weeks or every week. Alright? That's the most ironic part is that out of all men, the most feminized, the most loser, simp, faggot men are the men with a high body count that are considered pretty boys. They're considered the sexy men who sleep around with women. Alright? So in this retarded modern world where things are inverted and people are wrong about everything, people assume that the pretty boy Chad, right, good looking pretty boy Chad that can pull the women and he's sleeping around, that he's like the alpha Chad, successful man, when in reality he's actually the bottom of men. He's right at the bottom of the most loser men. And then above him you've got the beta simps that are virgins and are going to die virgins. They're actually above him. They're more masculine. And then on the top you've got the actual masculine men who just aren't taken advantage of by women and aren't manipulated and controlled by women. Actual men. Alright? But that's the defining, factor. The distinguishing position or principle. It's, are you controlled by women in any way whatsoever? If you are, you're a simp, loser man. Alright? A boy. A simp. And if you aren't controlled by women, they have no control, no ability to manipulate you, right? A woman can cry her eyes out and you just laugh at her and stuff. Like, she can't manipulate you at all, right? You don't feel sorry for a sad woman crying and telling a sad story. If anything, you'll laugh at her for crying and shit. Alright? You can't be controlled by women. You can't be manipulated by women. That makes you a real man. That's the definition of a real man. I know you'll get a bunch of women out there who will tell you, like, oh, this is what it is to be a real man. All these women trying to tell men how to be a real man. And ironically, if you even consider anything a woman says about what it means to be a man or not, you've already lost your manhood, bruh. Because you're listening and being controlled by a woman, which is the definition of not being a real man. That's the only thing that makes a difference between you being a real man or not. Is, do you listen to women and let them influence your perspective and your worldview and your opinions? Or do you think for yourself as a man and no woman has any influence over you whatsoever? Because you're a man. That's the only difference between real men and simp loser men. So all the men that are betas, subscribe to OnlyFans, sending money to women, they're obviously influenced and controlled by women. They're not real men. And then these men that are on the dating apps, they're on Tinder, they're fucking going out sleeping with a bunch of women and stuff, like, alright, they are obviously influenced and controlled by women. They're pussy whipped. Alright? So they're just as controlled, they're just as beta, they're not real men. So it's the only men who are real men are the men who aren't influenced or controlled whatsoever by women. So that means the real men only sleep with one woman who they're getting pregnant. Because otherwise, why would you, what's the even point? Why are you even sleeping with her? If you're a real man, why are you having sex with a woman unless it's to get her pregnant so she can give you a child? If it's not for that, then you're being influenced, you're being controlled, used by her. You've been tricked to have sex with her, to pleasure her, to be her slave. And these guys think they're cool and shit. They think they're like Chad's players, like, yo, I've slept with so many women. It's like, yeah, great, bro, you're a sex slave. You're a fucking literal slave, bro. You're a beta simp. You're a loser. You slept with a bunch of women. Because you can't control yourself and women have control over you. Whereas if you're an actual man, you wouldn't have slept with all those women, bro. Because you'd have control over yourself. It wouldn't be these women who you've slept with who had control over you, who used you for sex. Reduced you to a fucking piece of meat. Took away your manhood. And used you for sex. If you're a real man, you would have said no. And not had sex with them. And just kept your manhood. But you couldn't. You didn't have the masculinity and the strength of being an actual real man to just not be controlled by these women and taken advantage of and have sex with them because they've controlled you. And you can tell yourself as much as you want. You can run home telling yourself that, oh no, I wasn't controlled by these women. I just wanted to have sex with them. I just wanted to have sex with all these random women. Because I'm cool. Okay. If that's what you've convinced yourself, if that's the delusion that you've given yourself to like cope with you being taken advantage of and being nothing but a beta sex slave simp faggot, used by women for your dick, used by women for sex, because you have no control, because you're not a masculine man, you can't just say no to a woman, because women control you, because you're feminine, you're emasculated, you're a bitch, alright? Just pretend otherwise. Pretend like you're a cool cunt because you sleep with a bunch of women. Like, but every real man, everyone in reality knows that there's nothing cool or successful, nothing to be proud of about sleeping with a bunch of women. Do you know what is cool? What real men are impressed with and what we find cool? And alpha, like staunch as fuck, masculine. A man who sleeps with one woman, is loyal to one woman, alright, and isn't controlled by her. And the reason he's loyal with her, the reason he has sexual intercourse with her, is to impregnate her so that she will produce a child. And to get some, sexual pleasure, some physical satisfaction for oneself as a man. But you only do that with that one woman who you're trying to impregnate. If you're a real man, you don't sleep with a woman and try to get pleasure and physical satisfaction sleeping with a woman for the sake of just doing that. That's an added bonus that you do with one woman that you're trying to impregnate. If you're a real man, if you're not a beta bitch simp loser being taken advantage of by the women for sex. If you're actually a man getting sex for yourself as a man, alright? It can only be with that one woman who you're trying to impregnate. Because otherwise, you're not getting the sex, bro. She is. You're the piece of meat that's being used for sex by her. She's controlling you. Otherwise, why would you be having sex with her? That's right, because your impulse, your lack of self-control, right, your loser beta side, which she can take advantage of and control, alright, the part of you that wants to have sex with her, right, that loser beta side, she can take advantage of that and you have sex with her, right, because she's controlled you, because you're a simp beta. Whereas if you are having sex with her because you want to impregnate her, because you want her to produce a child for you, then when you have sex with her, you're not being controlled. You're not being used as a piece of meat, because you're having sex with her to impregnate her. It's your decision, your choice as a man. You're having sex with her to impregnate her. But if you're just sleeping around with random women, you're not the one choosing to have sex. You're not as a man in that situation, you're not getting sex. Because you're not having sex with her to impregnate her. So why are you having sex? Because she wants to use you for sex. She wants to use you as a free prostitute to pleasure her. And you're just her whore slave, her sex slave. Beta simp. Loser. Alright? No way around it. Even if you're getting enjoyment out of it yourself, even if you're having fun, you're still being used by her, so you're not a real man, because you're only having sex with her for her pleasure. And the only way around that is if you're having sex with her because you're a man and you want to impregnate her, because you're a man, you're a real masculine man. So you have sex with a woman to impregnate her, to have children. Yeah? Like an actual man. Because you're not being used for sex. You're not being used as a piece of meat just to pleasure the woman. You're having sex with her to impregnate her. Otherwise, there's no point. There's no reason to have sex. You just don't have sex. If you don't making a baby, just don't have sex. Unless you're a beta, prostitute, whore, simp, loser being used for sex. Obviously. It's the only two types of sex that exist. Right? So we're getting down to reality here. Why does it work like this? Why is this the reality? Because there's actually only two types of sex. There's sex for procreation, having offspring, creating children, and then there's being a sex slave, being used for sex, being taken advantage of for sexual pleasure. Alright? That's the two types of sex you can have. One type, it's actual masculine and you're trying to create children. The other type is you're just beta loser being used. Being taken advantage of and used like a piece of meat. Like violated. So if you're not doing one, you're doing the other. Which one are you doing? If you think you're a cool cunt, cool chad and you're like sleeping with all these women and shit, guess which one you're doing, bro? That's right. You're the simp. The emasculated. Feminine loser. A simple, crude way to put this across is, if you're one of these men who is on the dating apps, you think you're a player, you're picking up women, you're sleeping with different random women, alright? You've never actually, this is a crude, simple, crude way to put it across, it's real easy, right? You never fucked any women, bro. You got fucked by women. Big difference. So all you player cunts that think you're big bad boys sleeping with heaps of women, you never fucked any women, bro. Not one. They all fucked you. You beta simp. You think you're Chad. You think you're a player, bro, because you slept with a bunch of women. But you didn't fuck any of them. They all fucked you, bro. You got fucked, bro. You fucking beta. You bitch cunt. Like, not even by, like, you weren't even raped by a man, cunt. You got fucked by a bunch of women, bro. By a bunch of girls, bro. That's beta as fuck, cunt. So, to conclude, you have basic 3 categories of men. Alright? And we'll start at the bottom and go to the top. So at the bottom of men, you have these man sluts, these whores that sleep around, the chads, the so-called top 20% of men that sleep with the women. Alright? Well, not all, okay. Not all of us top 20% men are out sleeping with all the women, even though we're getting all the attention from the women. The top quality men turn them down. So, you've got these supposed top quality men, alright, who are mistaken with us as top quality men, and some of them are even prettier than us, alright. They're the tens, the supermodels and shit, the sexy boys, a lot of them, sadly. There are still some decent ones that aren't whore sluts, that actually are top quality men, right? But sadly, because they're the pretty boys, they're more likely to be taken advantage of by women, used for their looks, for sex, turned into an object, right? So that's why they're on the very bottom of the hierarchy of men, right? So even if they're actually in the top 20% of men looks-wise, right, status-wise, looks-wise, like artificial, superficial, status-wise, then their quality, alright, their character, their quality can actually put them at the bottom percentage of men, right at the bottom, because all they achieve, alright, by being the men who are sleeping with all the women, is potentially herpes and STDs. That's their success story, their achievement in life, and that's why they're actually even below the beta simp virgins, because that what they achieve is they achieve uh, money, a loss of income, a loss of money, a loss of finances. That's what these beta loser simps achieve that are paying for the OnlyFans and sending money to women and getting nothing. They're going to be virgins their whole lives. These men are in the middle, right? Still at the bottom, but in the middle, because what they achieve is just a loss of finances, right? So they're like losing out just as much as like an alcoholic or a gambling addict or something. They're just running out of money for no reason. Whereas the men who are sleeping around are on the bottom because what they achieve is just herpes and STDs. And then you've got actual alpha masculine men on top, real men, right? Who we neither simp for women financially, nor do we simp for women sexually, and women just don't have influence over us at all. So what have we achieved? The men on top are the men on top because we've achieved manhood, masculinity, dominance, self-control, the inability to be influenced and taken advantage of and manipulated. So that's the three different levels of achievement of men. You have the players who have achieved herpes and STDs. Then you've got the beta simps who have achieved a big chunk taken out of their bank account, a loss of finances. And then you've got actual men who have achieved masculinity and the inability to be controlled or manipulated or influenced by any women in any way whatsoever.